Deadpool 2 hits theaters this Friday. We've got your review right here on Screen Junkies. I'm Dan Murrell.
And I'm Roth Cornet, and this is one of the most anticipated sequels of the summer season. Would you agree, Dan?
I would very much agree. It's weird that in a weird way, because of Avengers Infinity War moving up a week, Deadpool 2 kind of kicks off the official summer season, although Infinity War kind of did. It just moved back a week. But yeah, this is like one of the first big summer popcorn movies to come out, and I think that fans of Deadpool are not going to be disappointed in this movie.
Absolutely. This is a rare sequel, and a very rare, as you pointed out earlier today, a rare comedy sequel that not only is able to meet the expectations of the original, but also expand on the world that was created and the characters that were created, give them surprisingly a little bit more depth while still keeping him the same smartass, smart alecky, fourth wall breaking commentary on comic book genre movies character that we know and love in Deadpool.
Yeah, my hats are off to Ryan Reynolds and the creative team behind this movie, because you're right. They're able to tell a story that actually has some heart to it. Like there are character beats. We get to the third act of this movie and I realize, like, I care about these characters. I care about what happens to them. I'm invested in what's going on, which it would be very easy to not do that. Simultaneously, I think it is just as funny as the first one. And I love that it has embraced its role. This franchise in particular has embraced its role as the smart aleck in the front row, not just for X-Men films and not just for Marvel films. There are shots at every franchise, at every movie in the comic book genre, and I love that they are able to balance that. It's not just a fourth wall breaking self-referential thing, and it's not just a comic book kind of big action movie. They've melded both of them, and I think they did it successfully and hilariously.
I agree. And the other thing that's interesting is we need that now, right? Because this is such a dominant genre right now, so that he's sort of able to speak the words that many of us are thinking, even about the films that we love. And what's interesting, you mentioned Infinity War, is one of the things that I said about Infinity War, and we've said, is that it's sort of the perfect version of what that movie needed to be.
Right.
Deadpool 2 is the perfect version of what this movie needed to be, and they are diametrically opposed in many ways, even though Deadpool is sort of the answer to Infinity War, because the stakes remain, as they did in the first movie, very, very personal.
Yeah.
It's not about saving the universe or the world. It is about something that is incredibly heartfelt and personal to that character. So as much as he's hilarious, I felt actually emotionally moved one or two moments, surprisingly.
Yeah,
and not manipulated.
And I'm sure all the other franchises are kind of shaking their fists, because what this movie can also do is put the tropes of the genre in their movie, but comment on it and then twist it in such a way that you don't mind that they're doing something that's been seen before, because the stuff that's in there that is the action, David Leitch, the direction, I think, which a lot of people were concerned about because, you lost your original director. I thought the action was really well staged. They're able to comment at one point about a particular sequence and how cinematic it shouldn't be and how cinematic it actually is. So I think that the action is well staged. And they do it in a way that is, I think, cool, but also that is in itself a commentary on the action in other comic book movies, which is interesting. And
there's a joke made about that too, about CGI action sequences.
There is, and so I'm sure that there are a lot of writers and directors out there for the other franchises that are like, why do they get to do that? Like we just have to do it straight faced, and they get to make fun of it. Well, Deadpool got to it first. Too bad. But it's not just that commentary. You have to make it cool in and of itself, which I think they do, and it's what you want a sequel to do, which is to embrace what people liked in the first movie, to fold in some new elements at the same time, and then to try to deliver something that is both an evocation and a building block above the first movie. Yeah. And I think that that's what this movie does.
It does that very successfully. It's got a little bit more money on it, and I think they use that money very wisely, because to your point, the action sequences are impressive in and of themselves, but more importantly, they are driven by the story, and they are driven by character. And that's, I think, a lot of times when we lose interest in action sequences is when they're not motivated, right? These are 100% motivated by who these characters are, about what by their abilities, their personalities, and what the story is trying to communicate. There's some new characters here. It surprisingly sets up a future without feeling ham-fisted.
It does.
And it's a family film. It's being marketed as a family film the same way the first one was a Valentine's film.
It
pays off.
It's a twisted family film.
It's a broken little family.
Yeah, it is. It is a broken family. But I liked the new characters. Domino, I think, is a standout.
Oh yeah.
I thought that I liked Josh Brolin as Cable. Now the character in this movie is kind of a function of the plot in many ways. There's not a whole lot of character growth beyond. You get some background info, but he is kind of there more as an inciting incident. So, I don't think there's a lot to the character of Cable. Hopefully they're going to fill that in later, but I thought he was good as the character. Again, he is a badass in a movie where they comment on how much of a badass he is or isn't. There are some surprise cameos. Some extended cameos. One particular very quick surprise cameo that I thought was one of the best.
We won't say anything else.
We won't say, just amazingly hilarious, and kudos to everyone for doing that, because it would have been easy, I think, to kind of fold your arms and say, like, I'm not going to do that. And then to do that, I thought was great.
I thought it was kind of a stroke of genius. I think you're right in the sense that the thing that works about Deadpool in these performances, they're all really strong, but right, those are the standouts because Josh Brolin is so committed to who that character is, while Ryan Reynolds is so committed to his character, and one is aware of the movie that he's in, and one isn't.
One isn't, yeah.
And so it's played really perfectly, very surprisingly well balanced. Look, I didn't believe when they said this is a Valentine's movie that it was, but it was a great Valentine's movie. It really was. And this one actually is kind of a hilarious, hard R.
Very hard R, yes.
But surprisingly heartfelt family film that is still, don't let that kind of twist you. It's everything that you want Deadpool to be. If you like the first movie, you're going to like this one.
Yeah. And it's not a perfect movie. There are very few that are. And I felt with this one, much like I felt with the first one, which is that they're throwing a lot of jokes at you. And when you throw that many jokes at you, some are going to miss and some are going to hit. And just like the first one, I think there are some misses, or just kind of like you either kind of go like, or they fall a little flat. But the ones that hit so hard, and some of them are timed and executed so well. It, again, just like any comedy, it kind of makes up for the ones that don't hit. So, I think probably how much you enjoy this movie and how much you get and appreciate some of the humor depends on how much you're invested in the genre, how much you know about the characters, how much you know about Ryan Reynolds, how much you know about pop culture, But there's also some that are great physical gags. There's one particular that's really funny, and again, takes a joke from the first movie and builds on it, expands on it, and takes it to somewhere new that I think, you could have just done the same joke again, but they kind of gave it a twist and did it in a really inventive way. And then, again, because it's Deadpool, they're able to do things in the end game of the movie right before you leave the theater that any other movie could not do.
Absolutely.
But it does it, and it is hysterically funny.
Any other movie, it would be betrayal of what you've just watched.
Yeah.
But Deadpool, it works perfectly, and it does set you up and leave you hungry for more. So again, you're right. Nothing is perfect. Certainly this isn't. And this isn't necessarily aiming to be an Oscar movie.
No.
Even though they may joke. Or
differently,
not.
Yeah.
It's not aiming to be an Oscar movie. That's not what this is about. But as far as fulfilling the promise of doing everything it set out to do as a Deadpool sequel, I think it does it. It does it as well as it could have. It's very satisfying if you like that first film. I think if you're a fan, you should go see it. We're going to talk a lot more in depth on news on Saturday morning with a spoiler review.
Saturday morning, we have a spoiler review going up for Deadpool 2. We'll get into, because there are going to be some things that people are going to want to talk about. But I agree with you. I'm a big fan of the first Deadpool movie. For me, this one stands up there with the first one. It'd be a hilarious double feature, and I'm looking forward to seeing it again because they throw so many jokes and there's so many little Easter eggs and things to look for. I think even on a second viewing, it's going to be rich with just things to catch and throwaways and visual stuff. And yeah, I like this movie, and I think especially if you like the first Deadpool movie, you're really going to enjoy this one too.
Well, I'm going to look forward to talking to you in more depth in our spoiler review, which will be on Screen Junkies News this Saturday morning, this coming Saturday morning.
Yeah.
We can all talk about it together.
Exactly, yeah. Deadpool 2 hits theaters on Friday, really Thursday night now. But let's say Friday because that's the date on the poster. Yeah, go see it. Come back here on Saturday morning or actually over on Screen Junkies News for a spoiler review. Let us know what you thought of the movie, and we'll be able to break down some of the fun, cool surprises that this movie has in store.
Thank you.
Thank you, Roth, and thank you for watching. We're always here reviewing the latest movies. The summer's just getting going, and we'll be back very soon. There's another little tiny movie coming out next week that we might have a few words to say about.
Does it involve a War of Stars?
It might involve a War of Stars. Until then, we'll just hang out and see movies.